Okay, hey guys, just an update on the Voge 300 rally. Got back from Scotland yesterday on. I did a 550-mile day on it yesterday, so quite a bit of a stretch. Now, obviously the last video I put out, I was setting off to Land's End to do the Land's End John O'Groats trip on the Honda CT110, Dorothy, that I previously rode around the world on. Well, unfortunately, Dorothy broke down within the first few hours. Both of the screws came out the float bowl on the carb, started losing petrol. Thankfully, I was able to find the screw and put that back on. And then about an hour later, started making a noise, then losing power, then coming to a dead stop and won't start again. So I think she's completely seized and will need a full engine rebuild, which, given the fact she's done 101,000 kilometres, is probably no unlikely thing. I think what it suggests is, though, if you're going to go on a big trip, make sure the bike you're taking has been run regularly, has been checked over, and is ready to go. But otherwise, it's going to ruin your trip. Actually, on this Land's End John O'Groats trip, we had somebody turn up on a Honda Innova 125 that had done 1,300 miles in the last 10 years, and that didn't even make it a day because the paint had come off in the tank and blocked the injectors. So, what's the best bike for a long trip? Probably the one that's being used most regularly, because then everything's running, you know what it needs or what it doesn't need. If a bike's been sat for a while, you don't know what problems it's gradually accrued. So yeah, one that's been used regularly, I think is the best thing. So I got recovered. I slept by the roadside that night because they couldn't recover me. My breakdown recovery company wouldn't recover me. Slept by the roadside, then a friend Sean came and rescued me and took me home, brought me here, I got the Voge 300 rally that was all ready to go from the last trip. So I just jumped on that and met the group here in North Devon. And then we've done 6-7 days going up to the top of Scotland using all the back roads, B roads, scenic riding and things like that, camping trip. I will do a specific video on riding Land's End to John O'Groats on a motorcycle to give people an idea of route options, where to stay, things to consider. So I will do a separate video on that. This really is just another update on the Voge 300 rally. It's now done over 4,500 miles, I think 4,600 miles. So racking up the miles, 4,552 she's on. So she's well overdue a service. Service should have come at 3,300 miles, first one at 300 miles, and then the second one at 3,300 miles, so every 3,000 miles. So she's way over, she's 1,500 miles or so over. Running very well. Did the Scottish trip no problem, and as I found with the Alps trip, just really enjoyable to ride in those twisty sections. These light single-cylinder engines actually work really, really well when you're using a back road route, you know, wherever you are in the world, but in this case through the Peak District, up through Cumbria, Scotland, the North Coast 500. That punchiness and the lightness of a little bike like this, or a relatively lightweight bike like this, just makes a trip like that really manageable. Just pushing them around the campsite, that sort of physical effort is not there where it is with the bigger bikes. You know, I help people move Targa 900s and things with panniers on, and those bikes weighed an absolute ton, and there was a nervousness that you were going to drop it. This is light as a feather. You know, it's as easy as anything. You can roll it forward, roll it back, turn it round, no problem. The bike was comfortable. I did the 550 miles yesterday, which was about getting on for 12 hours of riding, not necessarily all in the saddle, with probably 2 hours of break, so 10 hours of riding time yesterday. Perfectly comfortable with this cool cover on, riding position is good. There's a bit of screen protection, but you find that your head's just above it. So at 5'10", my head's just above the buffeting level. So I do get a bit of bluster on the screen, but it sat on the motorway, sat at 60 miles an hour, pushed up to 65, sometimes 70, and at times 75, but only occasionally. At 60 miles an hour, it seemed to be happy along. You know, it's not the best motorway bike, and if I wasn't for the need to get home yesterday, I would have took the A roads and actually enjoyed it. So on the motorway, it's out of context, it's the wrong bike for a motorway trip. But on the A and B roads, a perfect bike, and I've really enjoyed riding it. Are there any niggles? There's just become in the last day or two, just a slight, hardly perceptible, just a bit of a lag on the throttle, almost like a roughness, but it's not big, it's not overly noticeable, and it's clean on the pickup and it's clean on the throttle. It's just when you've got that throttle closed, you can just sense it just hunting a little bit, only a touch. And I just wonder if it does need, you know, whether it's valve check, whether it's a new plug in it, 'cause it's probably a cheap plug on it. Maybe it's just something that needs doing just to bring it back up to freshness. You don't really notice it. It's not, you know, the engine management light's not or anything like that, but I think it clearly needs a bit of a fettle just to bring it up to good health. It's not used any oil. chain and sprocket seems fine. I've only adjusted the chain sort of twice in 4,500 miles, so the chain looks like it's going to last a good length of time. I can't see it lasting anything less than 10,000 miles, which is good because I've got a KTM 390 over there that needs a chain and sprockets in 7,500 miles. The tyres, these Timson tyres, again, a no brand who makes them, China obviously. These tyres are actually lasting really, really well. I've got plenty of wear left on those rears. I think I'd get 8,000 miles, if not more, out of that rear tyre. And probably by the looks of it, same again on that front. So, does it have ultimate levels of off-road grip or road grip? No, but they're a long-lasting tyre, which give actually really good grip in the dry on the road. On the wet, you can feel them just move around a little bit more. I don't have the confidence in the wet as maybe I have with a better premium tyre, let's call it. But as a tyre for this type of bike and for this type of riding I've been doing, it's absolutely perfect. If I'd have put a TKC 80 on there, I'd have been through 2 tyres, or I'd be on my second tyre by now at least. So nothing wrong with the tyres. I certainly wouldn't swap them out unless I was going to do a lot of green laning, in which I've got a pair of AX Bridgestone AX41s to go on. Obviously that's going to make it a more trail friendly bike, but 4,500 miles, nothing's gone wrong. There's a few bits of rust just appearing, you know, the weld on this exhaust just starting to get a little bit of rust on it. There's a bit of rust coming through there, just a touch. Panels are fine, the rubbing here is not bad. Spokes, you can just tell they're obviously not stainless, so there's just a little bit of pitting. I've not cleaned the bike in 4,500 miles and it's been through a lot of conditions, so it's probably not, it's indicative of somebody who's not looking after their bike as to how this one's in particular is lasted. So I don't think those spokes are going to come up shiny and new again, but if I looked after it, they probably would have done. Bit of rust on the holes here, so you can just see it sense of just a little bit of surface rust, but it's probably not out of kilter with other bikes in this class, I would think. It's a shame maybe they didn't put an extra coat of paint on the exhaust, maybe better fasteners here. That one's rusting, that one's starting to take its shine off quite quickly. So, you know, you get the sense with these bikes with China, the buildings, I mean, this bike to ride, and I've been quoted as saying it's better to ride than the CRF 300. And without riding it back to back, I wouldn't want to be quoted as saying that, but in my mind, it certainly rides more energetically, more engaging, more dynamically spirited. The engine feels crisper and stronger, and the handling is definitely sweeter on and off-road. So in my mind, at the minute, yeah, until I jump on my CRF 300, I won't know for sure, but at the minute, it's a better bike. What I think they need to do is then look at the price. It's coming in at £4,000. Okay, put 200 quid on it and give us some good fasteners, give us maybe some adjustable suspension or something like that on the front, and then that would elevate it into an entirely different class. So I think what we've got is a really good base product, which isn't perfect, and nobody ever claims it will be, but there's margin in there to put some features on it that would really kill the market. You know, if this came out with like an R version, 300 Rally R, and it got fully adjustable front suspension and things like that, and stainless steel fasteners, stainless steel spokes, or you know, maybe knobblier tyres or something, you could see this still being less than £4,500, but just blowing everything else out of the water. So the Chinese are definitely getting there, and they're getting there by copying other brands, but then improving on them, and also having enough margin in there to make them either cheap or make them premium, like the Code 450, which I saw at the Armchair Adventure Festival. £8,500, and that looks an incredibly sweet and meticulously produced machine. Like, there's no way you could look at that and see it as a cheap, inferior product to anything coming out of Austria or Japan. It looks absolutely bang on. And £8,500. I mean, that's going to sell well if they can get enough through customs and into the dealerships themselves. So yeah, the Voge Rally, it's still doing everything as I expected of it. It's a reliable, dependable bike that's fun to ride, that's got its limits, i.e. on the motorway. But you could tour on it, you could do everything you want on it. Will I be keen to see if a service remedies that slight, you know, tickle that it's got at the bottom end? I obviously hope it will do. You know, I do think the bike's had a lot of abuse in a short amount of time, but it keeps doing it. It feels like it's going to do it. Started this morning, first start, no problems at all. So next job for it, we're going to get some knobblies on it, and it's got the Sweet Lamb Adventure Academy this weekend, so there's 30 riders going there for some tuition by the KTM boys. Full 9,000 acre complex to ride around. So we've got that this weekend, and I'll be taking the Voge and just seeing how it compares. The harshest critics will be the guys at the KTM Off-Road Centre, who will no doubt have a ride on it and try and pick it apart, and it'll be interesting to see what they make of it. Interestingly, they did the same when I took the Himalayan over to them in the early years of the Himalayan coming out, but now they've got one on fleet. So yeah, it's some of these types of bikes, they don't have fanfare when they're launched, but they gain it gradually just by being decent bikes. And I get the feeling that this Voge is going to be the same. Somebody posted on the forum, is this the ultimate tech bike? You know what? I kind of think it is, because it doesn't need anything spending on it. You could buy this, £4 grand, go and do the tech tomorrow. Brand new bike. You know, I know people are going to say KTM 690, yeah, great option if you're a good rider, but this is a little bit more user-friendly. CRF, again, great option, but you've got to start spending on the suspension and stuff. So it'll be interesting. In terms of the parts, I do see that Moto GB, the importers of Voge, now have all the parts listed on their website. So you can buy a new rear shock for 120, I think it is. The bars are 55, there's clutch levers and brake levers on there. It all says a 5 to 7 day delivery time, or 4 to 6 days or something like that. That will be interesting. If I can go onto Moto GB's website, pick a part, order it, and it arrives within a week, happy days. You know, that's a big step to giving this bike credibility. Can you ride it? Yes. Can you ride it and drop it and break it? Yes. Can you get parts for it? That's the telling tale of a good bike. Can I easily get parts for it? If they can, it just continues to rack up good points. Where's it going to go from here? I don't know. Back to Moto GB, or probably scold me for doing too many miles on it. But I'm saying good things about it, and nobody's paying me to say good things. I just genuinely like it as a bike. So crack on. Cheers. Rum!